some of them I've started getting more industrial, but for the most part I want to kind of make them look like Tonka toys or like, you know, those really fun light colors. And for me, I really enjoy that because it, you know, the Chinese vase is a very stoic, serious form, and then to have this kind of, wow, you know, ostentatious kind of poppy kind of form on top of it is definitely, I don't know, it's it's kind of a fun game to play for sure.
Is there any Japanese animation influence in the fun modern?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, with the title manga being a reference to the comic books. And I think, you know, also there is that kind of, with the movement, you know, there are some of the pieces that I definitely, like with the leaning vessel, and I want to create some of that gesture and that movement that's so prevalent in the animation and stuff like that. And then I just love the robot stuff that goes on. There's a lot of, you know, I'm a big fan of Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that, and there's a lot of robot references that go on there for sure. Yeah.
You were kind of talking about how the decoration on the pots have like morphed and changed, or like cultures have kind of adopted other forms of it on their own. Do you kind of play with that when you put it on a vessel, or are you like just trying to do very formal ones that everyone are going to recognize?
Yeah, I do play with it a lot, and I'm starting to play with it even more and more with some of the surfaces. Like sometimes I'm even looking, well, there's some pieces that I've done where it'll be like a traditional sort of Chinese sort of story or narrative that's being told on the vessel, and then I'll throw in a little robot, or, you know, something like that in there. And there are also some of the carnations, and I started doing one that was peonies decoration, and I started looking at the original, like how they were doing the woodblock, or not the woodblock print, but the scroll drawings, traditional Chinese scroll drawings of peonies, and then I was just like, while I was Googling, you know, Google images is really interesting because there's some really amazing connections that happen, but I was like, I started looking at tattoos, and I was just like, oh, these peonies are really beautiful. So now my peonies on my vessels, these Chinese vessels, look almost more like tattoo peonies than traditional Chinese peonies. That being said, like, and so it's funny because as an artist, I feel like I started making all these interesting rules for myself, and I'd be like, well, I gotta find a vessel that, you know, is a direct copy and copy it verbatim. And like the pilgrim jar is a verbatim copy of a bird one that is out there. But now I feel like I'm just like, wait a second, I'm making these rules, so, you know, I can change these kinds of, these dynamics and these relationships. And so now I feel like it's kind of going into this land where I'm starting to change it just a little slightly. And because they are simulations of these Chinese vessels, I feel like I can kind of now wade into the simulacra of these vessels where they become something else. They are more today than yesterday kind of thing. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of functionality obviously associated with ceramics. And I see that, you know, you embrace that with these pieces. But I wondered if there was a tradition at all of non-functional ceramics in Chinese ceramics.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, they did a lot of really interesting things with ceramics, and oddly enough, the Tang Dynasty was one of the most prolific ones, where they would be doing a lot of statues and that sort of thing. One of the interesting things about ceramics is its ability to look like a lot of other things, right? And the Chinese, when somebody would die, they would have a procession through the streets, you know, with the body to go to the tomb. But behind them would be all their stuff that they collected in their life. So people would be like walking down the street with their, you know, so-and-so's bronze pot, or their jade, or their whatever. And basically it was like the last, hey, check out, I've got all this wicked gear, kind of very ostentatious thing. But after a while, kind of like the Egyptian deal, it's like they would bury them with all their stuff. And of course, you know, what would come next, people would break in and steal all the stuff. So what they thought they would do is that the Chinese were just like, well, let's make fake stuff. And so they started doing that. And so they started making pots that looked like bronzeware. And they made, like, does everybody know what celadon glaze is? That green? Well, the celadon glaze was originally formulated to look like like jade, because it's a hell of a lot cheaper to send in a jade or a celadon pot than it is to send in your jade pot, right? And then you can kind of keep that wealth in the family. And so it's kind of interesting that the ceramic objects almost transcended their functionality, and they just became symbols, pure symbols that would be, you know, there'd be walking down the street with these kind of, and from afar people would be like, is that jade or is that bronze pot? Ah, it's ceramics. Anyhow, but yeah, so they did a lot of that, and they also did a lot of statues that would be in front of people's tombs and also in front of their houses to sort of scare away spirits and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely there's a huge tradition of sort of working in the non-functional, or as I like to call it, the dysfunctional realm of ceramics, for sure.
Did you have functions in mind for any of these pieces?
No, not at all. I definitely, with my work, I prefer to refer to function. And,
Covers like a microscope?
yeah, somebody called it a bomb last night. It's very famous friendly of you, that's good. But yeah, and I like that because it's like, you know, even both technology is supposed to serve a function, right? And then these Chinese, or these vessels are supposed to serve a function as well, but neither one of them are functional. So it's definitely, I have a lot of fun with that. And there's some pieces that I have that they have like a mouse appendage to it. And I do look at like a lot of technology that we use today and how it interfaces with our bodies as well, and try and incorporate it into the work as well. So the idea of function is, again, sort of more of a metaphorical function. In the same way, like these objects definitely are about, ceramics has a long-standing tradition with consumerism, and especially the ornament tradition was about these conspicuous objects. In a lot of ways, you know, these objects are within that same kind of vein. And it's funny because there is a lot of gallerists and curators that when they look at this work, they think of it as a consumable object. So it could be in the gift store, but it definitely shouldn't be in the main gallery space. Do you know what I mean? And there is that funny fine line. And that's, you know, you talk to any ceramicist and they'll brag about that and be like, I'm tired of being in the gift store. I want to be high glass on pedestal, blah, blah, blah. You know, so, you know, I think that's also part of the dialogue here as well. So you have that functionality, but then you also have these notions of conspicuous consumption that is, you know, so prevalent, and it continues with our technology as well, because, you know, I certainly want the new iPhone. You know, so, yeah.
Any other questions?
Cool. Well, thanks for listening to me natter on about the work. I'm glad you guys could come out, and hopefully it opened up a lot more for you in terms of what the work is about.
Sure, yeah. I want to thank everybody for coming and give Brendan a big round of applause.